Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Pain is suffering.
Hellraiser 4, Bloodline is suffering. Thank you very much. This is a horror movie podcast. We talk about horror movies, and obviously today we are going back to the Hellraiser franchise, which is the fourth one in the series. Sometimes it actually has four in the title, sometimes it doesn't, but Hellraiser Bloodline is the movie that we're going with today, yes?
This series is crazy with its naming conventions. Like, if you look at it, because it has, obviously the first one is just Hellraiser. Now, second one, it starts with like the subtitle first. It's Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
This is true, yes.
And then the third one just goes, Hellraiser 3, like it switches it around. Okay. And then, this one, there's like no number in it at all. It kind of drives me crazy.
Well, this one's kind of weird because it's sort of half and half, because sometimes this does have the 4 in it. So this one's kind of depending on when you saw or where you saw it. I'm not sure exactly what territories had the number, which ones didn't. But after this one, they're all just subtitles after this one.
Which it's fine, whatever. But I just hate when it's like, it took you like 4 movies to figure out how you want to name these.
Oh, pardon me. I just noticed I'm getting super bright here. The sun is beaming behind me, so I'm just going to turn that down. All right.
The one day of year where the sun comes out.
Shut up. All right, so I obviously we'll start spoiler free, I guess, for Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. This is one of these longer franchises we're working through. We're not going through this as super quick, partly because we started this in Leprechaun when we still had Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street to finish, so they've all been going a little bit slower than they should have because we're having to juggle 4 franchises. Technically Scream as well, but we just kind of accepted that was going to be a yearly thing after the second one. So yes, but the plan is anyway for all the next entries and all of the franchises to get the next one done during the October-thon. So this is going to be the last Hellraiser before October. So are you really that upset by that? Are you upset that you can't watch Hellraiser Inferno until October? Or, well, we'll probably record it earlier than that, but
is that the Scott Derrickson one?
It is, yeah. Hey, this one is the Alan Smithee one. Which if you don't know your movie stuff here, and I've actually made myself too dull, I'm just going to fix that as I talk. But if you don't know your movie history here, Alan Smithee is a pseudonym.
One of my favorite directors.
It's a pseudonym for when a director disowns a film and refuses to be credited for it. And this is a bit of trivia that I've known for a long time. I think this is the first time I've actually seen a movie that says Alan Smithee on the director credit.
I feel like it's it's an interesting piece of trivia, but I don't know how many I've actually seen. I feel like I've seen at least maybe 1 or 2 other ones, but just because some of the stuff we like to watch,
it doesn't get used anymore, because once the general public knew that Alan Smithee was a fake name, they stopped doing it. They didn't see the point in doing it anymore because people know. Yeah. But so this is Alan Smithee.
No, it's funny, like, because I did do a little bit of research about this movie, which nowadays just equates to, after I watched it, I read the Wikipedia entry. But it's but I felt like there had to have been something interesting about this movie, because it seems like such a mess. And then lo and behold, when I was looking at Wikipedia, it looks like there's a lot of troubles and issues with it, and like you said, eventually leading to the director to try to go Smithee. There
was a lot of reshoots after the director pissed off. So what's funny is I watched this on stream with some of the audience, some of our loyal audience members, and David actually got the original script up and was reading the original script as we were watching it. So every so often,
is he like part of Anonymous or something? Did he like hack into Miramax?
It was released. You can find it online. It's not a hidden thing.
All right.
And apparently
we don't want to piss off Anonymous.
Apparently, the director, who the real director's name, by the way, is Kevin Yeager. But he actually does have
the Jaeger bomb.
Released the Jaeger
cut. He makes people call him on set.
Released the Jaeger bomb, yes. So
release the Jaeger cut and get it trending.
Well, that's the thing. He actually does have the cut. Apparently, he has a personal copy of his cut, but obviously he's not allowed to just release it because he doesn't own the rights to it.
Interesting.
So it does exist, and apparently it's like almost 2 hours long. And this movie's only 85 minutes, so that's a lot of extra footage.
Wow.
Especially given that a lot of the footage was reshot, so even the stuff that's in this movie will be replaced, some of it, with different stuff.
Interesting.
So
yeah, because I mean, I'll come out and say I think I mean, I think this movie's really bad, but I do feel like it seems like there is interesting elements to it. So I actually would be like pretty. I actually would be pretty interested in seeing, like what the other version is, because it's like kind of based on like I think Barker still came up with some of the story beats, or at least some plot elements, because I believe this is the last movie that he has any involvement in.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
So, I mean, again, I'm probably just going off of like Wikipedia and stuff, but I think he, actually came up with some of the ideas, and then, like I think he picked the original writer, director, or whatever. And then, it just seems like it's one of those things that just kind of spiraled out of control, and studio took over, and then no one is really happy with it. But I would be interested in seeing like, what some of these actual ideas were.
I'll say it. If they ever release the original cut, we'll go back and review the original cut, because it does sound like it can be so different that it'd be worth having a look at. I will say this, though, because I knew that the franchise very quickly became a series of movies that weren't supposed to be Hellraiser movies, that they just kind of shoved Pinhead into in the script to turn it into a Hellraiser movie. In fact, in some cases, maybe they even shot a whole movie and then decided to go back and reshoot a couple of things to add in Hellraiser. But I knowing that was going to be happening with the franchise, I kind of didn't expect this one to actually have some sense of continuity. Some of the ideas I really dislike. I'll say that much. But not all of them, but there's some ideas that I really dislike. But I was surprised. I genuinely did not expect the ending epilogue scene of Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, to actually tie in to anything that happened in this movie. Because if you remember the ending of Hellraiser 3, so I guess mild spoilers, but the box, the lament configuration and the Cenobites were kind of encased in concrete in a building site, right? And the little epilogue scene at the end of Hellraiser 3 was that this building that was built on this site, this tall skyscraper, was like all of the walls and the design, all of it looked like the box. It was as if it had basically turned into a giant lament configuration. And that sounds like a blast. Like, it sounds like, okay, give me like a building size lament configuration for the sequel. That sounds like it could be fun. I did not expect them to follow up in this, but lo and behold, once the movie got going and we realized that the present day protagonist is the architect of this building, and he is actually the descendant of the original like box maker.
Toy maker.
Yes, the toy maker, as they keep calling him. The toy maker. That's actually like, okay, I'm surprised they tied it into it. I do hate the idea of the architect of this building being descendant of the toy maker. The guy who built the original box. That made
it's all played by the same guy too, right?
Yeah, it's all played by the same actor.
I hate that.
Yeah, but it actually,
whenever they do that in movies, it always annoys me.
Well, even in Back to the Future.
Yes, it's awful. No, it's fine in Back to the Future, but
okay, just checking. But like so I appreciate that it does tie into that. I wish it went into more of this building being more of a giant version of the box, but whatever. But yeah, the idea that this is because Hellraiser 3 did the origin of Pinhead, and it really bugs me that the very next thing they did was, let's do the origin of the box. let's do that. And then you added all the nonsensical elements. You start off this movie in space. This movie starts off as a straight up science fiction film, and then like goes to flashbacks to like the 18th century, and like it's just like it's all over the place. And it spends so much time doing all this other stuff that you barely get to know the protagonist, if you can even call him that, in the present day segment. So he doesn't really like, you don't really get to know him. You don't really like, grow to care about him, or even in theory. Obviously, if a movie's not good, you won't care about him anyway. But so you have all that, and then you finally come back to the future for the conclusion. And the sad part is that if you told me that one part of your idea for the movie was like the Cenobites versus colonial marines from Aliens, I would have said yes, sign me up for 90 minutes of that. Give me that 90-minute movie. Unfortunately, condensing it all down into like the last 25 minutes meant that it just didn't have the fun element that it could have done. But
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the movie's dirt cheap. You can tell the budget's stretched thin the entire time.
It's still released theatrically though. This is the last one to be released in theaters.
I mean, did you enjoy the CGI because the movie starts with in the future, and you've got the future descendant of the toy maker, past the architect. This guy in the future is in this space station, and he's got like a remote control. It's like a Terminator robot inside this like room holding the box. But when you see the close up of the hands like moving the box to like move the puzzle around, like the hands and the box are CGI. And this is a 1996 movie. It's a low budget 1996 CGI like effect, and it looks like an FMV from like a PS1 game. It looks atrocious.
I'll give it this credit. I think the CGI did look better than Leprechaun 4.
I mean, I may give it that credit too, but it doesn't really say much. Doesn't really say much. Jesus, I thought you tried to defend that CGI. You said that was ahead of its time. That it was.
Right.
I seem to recall
this was a little bit more ahead of its time.
I seem to recall during Leprechaun 4, you saying something about it being a step forward for effects, even though it was years after Jurassic Park. That's what I seem to recall.
Right, and then this is just a little bit more of a step.
Don't tell me these shitty Hellraiser sequels are going to turn into you defending them and you're delusional. They're actually great. They're works of genius.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, so
I'll be honest. I have seen this movie before, so I was familiar. It had been a while since I seen it, but I do actually remember like renting it as a kid. I will say that this is the last one that I'm familiar with. Like, I think I've seen at least one or two of the random Hellraiser sequels. I know I've seen the latest one for sure, but like I have no memory of them, so it will be interesting going forward.
Yeah, 3 was the last one I'd seen, so this was new for me. So everything from this point on is new for me. So I'm a little scared and a little terrified of what that's going to end up meaning, but we'll see. So I think one of my complaints, actually, and this was kind of true in the last one as well, but in the last one I thought was enough cheesy fun to just kind of say whatever. In the same way that if this was just 90 minutes of like Colonial Marines versus Cenobites, I'd have been into it. But
sure.
it did kind of bother me during this movie how for some reason Pinhead seems to want to like take over the world now. Like in the first movie, he has no motivation to do anything like that. He doesn't want to like affect the world. He just is there to be the guardian that shows up, and anyone who plays with a box, he's there to like give them the punishment and make them regret ever touching it.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's the whole point is that they like they're like employees in hell, basically. Like if you are stupid enough to open the doorway, they are there to punish you. But yeah, there's never any like thing with him where he's trying to open a portal to hell where like they want to unleash hell on earth. Like I do actually like the idea that they are kind of just these people that just show up and punish you, that they don't really have a larger goal.
Yeah. It's because I'd go as far to say that Pinhead and the Cenobites technically aren't really villains in the first movie. They're kind of neutral.
Right. Yeah. So no, like almost like even like the first two movies, it's always been someone else, like in this kind of third evil person that is trying to usurp the power or use it for whatever. And I think and I'm guessing it's probably a difference between the original movie and what the studio ended up making it, but it seems like they wanted to do that again with Angelique, who is like this hell princess, I guess. But it seems like they were trying to make her the big bad, and then I think it was the studio that wanted more Pinhead to be in it.
Yeah, the stuff with Angelique is so rushed and just haphazard, and then it feels like she's forgotten about at a certain point, and then
without a doubt.
So yeah, we'll get into it soon and work through it, because the movie does have a lot of crazy things to talk about. I will say that I don't necessarily hate some of the new Cenobite designs.
I have no idea what's going on with those twins. Like, I mean, fine, it looks cool, but I don't understand like what they do.
Yeah, I don't understand it that much either, but it was an interesting visual, if nothing else. Although the scene where that's introduced is so random and just there for the sake of introducing those characters.
Yeah.
It's almost like they said, "Oh, we need a big horror scene in the middle, so we'll come up with something and just put it in there randomly."
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, and I got very confused as well as to Pinhead's relationship with Angelique, because Angelique's been out of hell for like 300 years, and Pinhead, we know, didn't really become Pinhead until after that. So why are they speaking to each other like they're like? It's almost like they went to the same high school, right? Someone said that in the chat when I was watching it. It's like they went to the same high school.
When you watch the movie, I don't think it does like a good job of really giving you a sense of who the character is or what their motivations are. When I read the Wikipedia entry, they have more stuff in the story, and I'm wondering if that's from the script or whatever, because they're talking about their motivations and how they're clashing and stuff, and it makes sense when I read it, but I'm like, I did not see this in the movie.
Yeah, it was kind of the same for me. I was watching the movie and David was like telling me this is what she was just trying to do and what her goal is, and I'm like, wait, where did you get that from? Like, I don't get that. This doesn't make sense to me in the movie at all. So it's kind of a haphazard mess. We should mention there's a young Adam Scott at a role here.
I think that's one of the big reasons why it's always kind of stuck out with me, at least for like, the last couple of years, because it's like, whenever you have something like this, like a guy or a star or whatever that goes on to, be notable in other ways, it always, makes it be like, oh yeah, but, like, I guess Paul Rudd and Halloween, would be like the other kind of example that sticks out.
Hey, Halloween 6, don't give him credit for being in Halloween. Come on.
You know what I mean.
Very different things. Very different things. So, yeah, I guess we'll just sort of go into it then. So I'll give the spoiler warning.
Was it? Well, I mean, I think I know where you stand, but did you like it or did you not?
I didn't even think that was worth asking, Tim. Sorry. Yes. No. The movie's trash. It's a haphazard mess that you can. I mean, I'm not convinced the original movie would have been good. Like, I sure. Everything that I get from it tells me that the original movie was also going to be full of bad ideas, but at least it would have probably made more sense and not felt as like just like a haphazard mess that we get in the end.
Yeah, because what I will say is I agree. I do think it is very bad. But I will at least give it credit that I think it is interestingly bad.
Sure.
Versus, something where I think going forward in the series, I feel like we are going to hit a very tedious level where, like you said, like everything's just going to be like kind of like, these bad supernatural like detective movies that they just like, insert Pinhead into. And I feel like it's going to, become a very kind of tedious, boring kind of exercise. But, I do admire this for at least having ideas and being a little interesting with some of those things. And I do feel like the jumping around really doesn't help it. But I do like because I'm a big fan of the Hellraiser comics, and I do think Hellraiser does work as an anthology like kind of story. So watching this, I was kind of thinking like, I could see them doing like an anthology Hellraiser movie, but it would, obviously have to be, with better talent and much better done. But I think the box is such like a simple idea that there's like a lot of different things you can do with it. Like, I don't want an anthology that would be, 5 different stories of Pinhead coming out and attacking people, but just different people finding the box in different time periods and different ways, kind of like the way the comics do. I think is interesting.
That's actually the other thing, is that in the original script, there was no jumping around. It was told in a linear fashion. It started off in the past and just kind of worked its way forward, which is interesting, because I feel like you could do the thing where you're jumping between them, but I feel like you have to jump between them more than this does, because basically what this does is that once we get, in the opening in the future, once the Colonial Marines show up and the woman named Rimmer sits down to talk to the dude. Like, it's basically just a framing device, and then from there, I mean, I think we cut back to his face a couple of times as he finishes a couple of sentences. But for the most part, all it really is that once he starts telling the story, then it's just, here's the, you know, the 17th century portion, here's the 90s portion, and then eventually we're back there. Like, I feel like you can see if you made it like so there was ongoing plot in both, and you were cutting back and forth as things were being revealed. That may work, but
it's like all it does is it just makes you forget. Like, by the time we get back to space, I'm like, oh yeah, space. I forgot.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I just it's a rough time. So yeah, I'll give the spoiler warning. I'll thank our Patreon producers. So thank you to David Short, Tyler Hess, Board Now, Alison Fordyce, and Cindy Palacios for being our Patreon producers. They are all patrons at $20 or above tier, but you can of course be a patron for as little as $1 per month, and that will grant you access to an exclusive bonus episode every single month. There's a back catalogue of about 17 or 18 episodes now you can go back and dig into. But go and have a look. At $5 tier, you get early access to episodes as well as voting on an episode every month. So go and have a look and see if you're interested, and help keep all the content coming. But that is us. So that's not us. I said that as if I was wrapping up the show. No, that is us getting into the spoiler section. So full spoilers for Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. So, like I said, I mean, I basically described the start already. It's just, you know, he's on a space station. He's got like a Terminator robot that he's using gloves. He's got like power gloves that he's using to control the robot, and the robot's doing the box, and he's summoning Pinhead and the Cenobites. And you get the sense that he's doing this because he's got a plan. He's going to try and destroy them somehow or something or whatever.
Yeah.
The exact
the robot explodes.
Yes, the reason why what he's going to do works. I mean, I don't think the movie ever really explains it, to be honest. But there was some mumbo jumbo at one point about something with light, but we'll get to it. But of course, they capture him, and they're like, "Hey, you went nuts and took over your own spaceship. You know, you have to explain yourself." And he's like, "Well, there's an ancient thing in my family. It goes all the way back to the 17th century." So that's East New Hampshire, born and raised on the playground. The toy maker spent most of his days. So it goes back and it introduces two key things. It introduces the toy maker, who's the same actor as this guy in the future, who's got a fiance or a wife or whatever, and he's just finished making the box. We see him sort of finish making the box. And this was a commission. Someone hired him to make this. And then we get to meet who hired him, and we get this, like, pompous, evil old man who's all kind of disgusting, and then Adam Scott with this horrible haircut who lure this young woman who they then kill, and, you know, they hook up with chains, and I'm like, wait, is this going to be like the first Cenobite? Are they going to make like the original Cenobite? Or was Pinhead the first one? I can't remember. I don't remember how this worked. It's been a while. But basically, they summon a demon from hell, and it turns out to be the princess of hell, Angelique, who apparently, as they explain it here, if you summon a demon, the demons is yours to control, unless you get in the way of hell. If you stop the process of hell or get in the path of hell, it breaks the control spell. And this is important because that's really frustrated me, right? So they've got this demon at their behest, and the entire time, by the way, the toy maker is watching from the window because he wanted to see what they were doing with the box, and this kind of like turns the box into the proper like. And I don't even get the logic of this. What the toy maker like built a puzzle box, and now it's just the conduit to hell.
Well, there's no like explanation for anything. Like, like how does this Duke and his young ward, I guess, like, how do they know all this stuff? Like, you know, like they, I don't know. I guess they must be into like the occult or something. But I mean, can just anyone make this box? Like, I always assumed the box was kind of special, but I mean, if you have like the blueprints, can you come up with it?
I mean, later in the movie, they kind of imply that it is special because his descendants are so important. Like, this family line, like, they're also important to like the box and opening gateways. Like, it has to be them that builds it. So, I guess it's kind of saying the toy maker is kind of a chosen one in a sense.
Okay.
I'm not trying to do a reference to the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm just, using the phrase chosen one because there's nothing else for it. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So the toy maker wants to try and steal the box to stop all this from happening because he's horrified. He tries to tell his mortician friend, and he's like, don't be preposterous. Like, we are in the 17th century, or the 18th century. How dare you? And he tries to steal the box, and he comes across Angelique and Adam Scott just having sex, and the old man's just kind of dying. Which, by the way, if you're used to Adam Scott from like Parks and Rec and like other nice things, like you're not going to like him in this movie. He's such a disgusting little weasel.
Yeah, and honestly, like I do like Adam Scott, and I think he is like a entertaining, charismatic actor to watch usually, but I don't think he's doing a great job here, and I don't necessarily blame him. I mean, maybe he was young and wasn't as refined yet or something, but. I don't know if that's on him or the director, but I don't think he does a great performance.
No, I think that's fair. He, I mean, yeah.
I'll echo that for everyone in the movie as well.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's a very fair point. But he gets caught and killed, but his wife's already pregnant. This is the thing. So the bloodline's continuing even though he's dead. So we cut ahead to the 90s, to the present day of 1996, and the present day toy maker is the architect who built the building that is on top of the box, right? Mm-hmm. And from the end of the third movie. So I was surprised they tied it in. And he's got a son who's playing with Kinects, which made me kind of weirdly nostalgic because I was like, oh yeah, I remember Kinects.
Yeah. I know you shouldn't make fun of kids, but man, I hate this kid.
Why shouldn't you make fun of kids? They're awful.
I mean, probably want to go a little easier on kids, especially when they're in like big franchises and stuff. You don't want to attack them online, but yeah, this kid really annoys me. I'm pretty sure it's the same kid that was in The Shining, obviously the the miniseries that came out.
Oh yeah,
the
sure.
Movie. But I really did not like him in that. At least he doesn't have a super huge role in this. But
did you recognize the architect's wife?
No.
That was the female lead from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't place where she was from, but I knew her from something. I was like, oh, who is this? I recognize her. And yeah, it was
cool.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Now, I do have a question though. Like, what the hell is this building? Like, I didn't understand. It's like, all right, is this like a home or an office building, or like a business? Like, it seems like so weird. Like, at one point, it's like, all right, yeah, this is their home, this is where they live. But then it also seems like they're going up to like have board meetings and stuff there. But I was very confused as to what the hell this place is.
These are very good questions, Tim. These are very good questions. Questions that I cannot really answer, unfortunately. Okay. This is the thing. We don't really get to spend a lot of time with the architect. We just kind of like get glimpses of him with his family, and he's having these nightmares about the box and whatnot. And we get a lot of time here where Angelique's kind of on her own, like killing random dude. Like, she kills like a random dude.
She already killed Adam Scott, or?
Oh yeah, I glossed over that. You're right. So this was so bizarre to me, right? Adam Scott is introduced in the opening of this movie, and it turns out that having like a demon under his control makes him immortal. So he's still alive in 1996, with even worse hair than he had in the previous time period, might I add. And he's with Angelique, and basically he basically tries to stop her from doing something. And it's okay, that broke the curse then, because he stood in the path of hell, right? So she then like kills him, she guts him and kills him right there and then. And all I could think was, wait, he avoided making this mistake for 200 years?
Yeah, it seems like so pointless. Like, why even have this character when they like literally do nothing? Like, it seems like such a big setup that he's gonna be the one controlling her, and then it's like as soon as you do the time jump, it's like he's gone. Yeah,
like maybe if you'd just done this before the time jump, it wouldn't have felt so weird, but you had him survive all this time just to be killed off immediately. Like, why? So weird, so stupid. Anyway, so
And like you said too, like the way that they do it, like it's not like he does this big thing or whatever. It's literally just her like being like, oh, I'm gonna go like talk to this guy, and he's like, no, you shouldn't do that. And she's like, oh, guess what? You stood in Hell's way. It's like, okay, like, all right, like you can at least come up with like a more clever way around it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it made everything feel stupid. It made the whole rule feel stupid. It made him feel stupid that he just did this after 200 years of not doing it. So yeah, Angelique sort of watching this present because the architect's making a presentation, and she ends up like targeting this guy. She kind of like flirts with him and lures him into the basement. Which honestly, there should be a lot of red flags for this guy here, but he's really looking forward to the sex. So he lets a lot slide, and she ends up using him. She punches a hole in the concrete pillar, which has the box in it, the configurations inside it, and then she uses him to open a gateway to hell, and Pinhead comes out, and this is where they're talking like they're old like friends, like, oh, how's hell these days? Oh, it's different from when you left, Princess. I'm like, how does Pinhead even know who she is? Because she's been out of hell since before he got there. But so many logic questions.
Yeah, no, that's actually like a good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, like, because when we see Pinhead's origin, he was like a soldier from, forget if they said exactly which war, but, you know, you gotta imagine it's like somewhere, you know, in the 1900s or whatever. Yeah, it was later on. It was World War I, maybe something like that. Yeah. So like, yeah, he wouldn't have known this person that was in there, whatever, the 18th century before.
Yeah. So really, really weird logic there, and there's a couple of scenes of like them like just having these really weird villain dialogue scenes where they're talking about their plans, and I was informed by chat. Again, I didn't really get this from the story, but she wants Pinhead to be trapped inside the building because it's a big element configuration, because then she can go back to hell without becoming a Cenobite. Was the gist of it. Like, basically, she wants to be able to go back to hell without becoming a Cenobite. Which ultimately does happen. Like, you know, Pinhead does make her a Cenobite. That happens kind of at the end of the 90s section of the movie. But you know, we have so there's a couple of scenes with the architect where he's having dreams. He agrees to, you know, talk to Angelique, and Angelique's like, you know, wanting him as a client, and immediately he is like, he's like obsessed immediately, but there's no like build up to it, where when she calls him in the middle of the night to like come and see him, he just kind of does it and doesn't really understand, like, because we see him like, she's like whispering into his ear randomly in one scene. There's no like setup for it. It just cuts to them, they're together, and she's like whispering in his ear. And I don't know, like the whole thing just feels really haphazard, because as he's having these nightmares, we cut to this random like pair of security guards who are twins, and they're in the building and they're sneaking around, and they hear some noises, so that there's a lot of like, it's really drawn out. There's a lot of like bad comedy of them like bickering with each other. Yes.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. They have a really weird conversation about like, they're asking each other if they would have sex with like a woman that used to be a man.
Oh yeah, that's did not age well, this conversation.
It didn't age well, but on the one hand, I will give them like some credit that they did seem more open to it than I feel like a lot of other movies would play that off as being like, you know, like they would probably act like it's gross or something. But I guess credit to him where like the guy is open to that. Like,
I mean, yeah, it could have been worse, I suppose. Yes, it could have been worse.
It is like such a weird conversation to throw in this movie, though. Especially I think like for that time.
But yeah, so they essentially come across, they stumble into the secret meeting between Angelique and Pinhead.
Oh wait, also sorry, one thing.
Yes.
It's just weird that they're twin security guards.
I know. They got the same job. They got hired together.
Like, did they like? Was it like one opening, but they just both showed up? So the guy was like, okay, I can't just hire one of you.
Yeah, or did they even actually both get a job? Did they basically just keep swapping, and then they just got two uniforms so they could both be on the job together? I don't know. That's kind of weird. Hey, maybe they take it. Maybe they give him a discount. They're like, hey, you don't have to pay us two full wages. You can give us both 2/3 of a wage, and you get like two for a discount. I don't know. Maybe they do something like that. But So they sublighted Pinhead and Angelique, and Pinhead basically kills them and turns them into a Cenobite by bolting them together. He has like these masks as well that he puts on, like, so they have like half a mask, which kind of like crushes that part of their face, and then he has like big bolts coming from the set. I mean, this is kind of a fun kill, to be honest. Like, if I'm going to give compliments where compliments are due, the actual gore of the kill is fun in a wacky way.
I do agree, like, it is fun and there's like some cool special effects with it, but when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know what's happening here. Because the way it keeps cutting and doing like weird stuff, it's like, I don't know, I was just kind of confused. Like on a broad sense, I understand that like he's combining them, but just the mechanics of it, because then when you see them, it's like they have this like weird twisty face with like kind of like a bolt going around it, and I'm just like, I don't know, what are the logistics of this?
There's like a cylinder in the middle that he kind of like turns, and it kind of like corks their skin like in a corkscrew together. It's
like I guess interesting idea, but it still just confuses me. And then like later when they kill someone, I was confused as like to how their powers or body or whatever works.
No, I mean, I didn't think this part was that confusing. I did think the kill later was, though, or at least it was disappointing, because it felt like they split apart so they could then fuse someone in between the two of them. And I was disappointed that when they do that later on, there's not like a wide shot at the end showing what it looks like now with all three of them. It kind of, you see all the small parts of it, but you don't see the big shot of like, oh, this is what it looks like with the third person in the middle. I wanted to see that. I was like, show me that. I want to see this. Yeah. Crazy concept. But so... so we do get, that's like one of the new Cenobites. Angelique's kind of the other one. Because basically from this point on, it very immediately like turns to Pinhead kidnapping the architect's son. And Pinhead wants a permanent portal open to unleash hell on Earth. Angelique wants him trapped so that she doesn't have to become a Cenobite. But Pinhead kind of figures this out. So there's a lot of running around. The mum kind of is chasing around the building looking for her son, and she's running from because Pinhead's got his like demon dog. Which there's a lot of running from the demon dog. She kind of like fights back against it at one point, but ultimately, essentially, what it boils down to is that the architect gets killed right in front of his son, and Angelique gets taken and turned into a Cenobite. But then, like, okay, but it's all kind of over then because the architect's dead. So now the son continues the bloodline, and that's kind of the end of the 90s section, right? So
just like the name of the movie.
Moving on, so then it goes back to the future stuff with the space station. It's like, no, that's descendant of the architect and the toy maker. He wants to, he was trying to like bring them out so he could finally end this once and for all and kill or trap Pinhead and all the rest of them.
Now, do you think has he been telling this story in real time? Like the amount it's taken us to watch this, has that been how long he's been talking?
You have to assume it didn't, otherwise this is ridiculous. But then again, this movie's ridiculous, so what else would it be? So yeah, I want to make it very clear that the reasons why Angelique was doing what she was doing and why Pinhead was doing what he was doing is not really that clear in the movie. It's kind of additional reading that told me exactly what they were trying to do. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about their motivations until like I read Wikipedia and I was like, oh, that's what they wanted? Okay.
Yeah, so from there it becomes, colonial marines are being hunted down by Cenobites. Pinhead's walking around the station killing, Cenobites are killing the marines. They have no chance in hell. And the sad part is if they'd actually spend time, if this was the whole movie and they spent time building the marines, maybe this could be fun and goofy and okay, right, we get so Pinhead and the other Cenobites are killing them in wacky ways, and we do get the twins kind of like crushing the one, and there's some other okay kills. There's nothing amazing. There's kind of, some of them are off camera or whatever, but there is a little bit of gore here and there. The demon dog's running around, so it's an okay time. Like, honestly, the ending of this movie is actually kind of a fun idea. It's not really executed in a fun way. I don't really care about it as it's happening, but the whole conclusion of the movie is that this space station is actually a folded out giant lament configuration that then once he has Pinhead trapped, like they escape in the shuttle, and by the time that this happens, all the marines are dead except one. It's just Rimmer, I guess it's kind of his love interest, for lack of a better term. and Toymaker descendant, and they're on a shuttle, and basically the space station folds in to create a giant lament configuration box in space, and then the light inside it like traps Pinhead, and then it explodes, and that's it. I guess technically Pinhead's dead.
So I guess like another thing I was reading about, which I did not get from the movie, but I think they're trying to say that there's another box they're trying to create. It was like the Elysium configuration or something that's supposed to like battle. But like I mean, I don't know if I missed that in the movie. I didn't understand that until I read about it later. I
think technically what this space station is at the end is the Elysium box or the Elysium configuration. Yeah. But I mean, I didn't get that from the story either. So yeah, he's created an alternate box that kills or traps Pinhead rather than opens a portal to hell, I guess. But nothing in the movie really explains this. So much of the detail has just been stripped away that I'm not convinced it would be any good, but at least it would make sense.
Sure. I mean, I think some of these ideas are interesting, and I mean, I don't know, again, with this, like with this specific movie and director and everything, I don't know if it would have been good either, but like when you talk about some of these ideas, they sound crazy enough that I can see them like, it could be kind of cool or interesting at least. But
I mean, I was laughing maniacally as I realized what the space station was doing. See, when it started like folding in, I was like, oh shit, it's a box. Like I did think it was really funny. So I mean, that's worth something. But I just no, I mean, because some of these scenes aren't reshot. Some of these scenes are the original scenes. So I'm convinced that the movie, even untouched, would have been probably really bad. But
yeah,
it would have made more sense at the very least. And I think I'd have still been annoyed that the whole thing wasn't in space. That said, maybe though it would have been more surprising though, because imagine you start this movie, it's in the past, and then it comes to present day, and then you assume at that point, oh well, this is the movie then, so this is the main part of the movies in 1996. This is going to be the whole thing. Imagine you're surprised when you got to that 2/3 mark, and it jumped forward to 2155. Well, I don't know what year it is. I don't know if it told me.
It was 21 something. It
Yeah.
2187 maybe.
But imagine you're surprised in the theater if you went to see this when it came out, and it played out in order, so you got to this point in the movie where it jumped ahead to the future in a space station. I'd have lost my shit. That'd have been a great surprise.
Yeah, like I would have at least given it credit for like swinging for the fences.
Yeah, I mean, I say great surprise because it would have been like a ballsy, like stupid thing, not because it would be a good idea necessarily, but
yeah.
But
yeah, man, I think all the jumping around, I get what they're doing. It's kind of interesting, but like, I don't know. I feel like it just ends up like making everything feel so like, kind of like, haphazard, and like I feel like I don't get any time to really care about any characters, since we're, spending like not that much time with them, and jumping around and stuff. I really don't care about these people.
There's a point where Pinhead says to the architect, "You've been plotting with Angelique," and I'm like, he's literally had 2 scenes with her. We've seen him with her twice. We've seen him the first time they met, and then the whisper in the ear scene. That is the only 2 times we've seen her and him together in the same scene. So much of it feels underdeveloped. Like, I mean, this architect character, it feels like in theory he's supposed to be the main protagonist of the movie. But by the time he dies, I was like, I feel like I barely got to know him. There was only a handful of scenes with him, really. It spent more time with Pinhead and Angelique, and not in a way that made sense or felt like they were the protagonists, either or, which may have been interesting. What if Angelique was the true protagonist? That may have been an interesting idea.
Yeah, and I think that's what the original script was probably, had a lot more of. But yeah, I think,
if that was the original idea, is that the protagonist of the movie is literally someone else from hell who's trying to beat Pinhead, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah,
on its own. Like, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and I think the problem though, like, the studio sees, hey, no, like, Pinhead is the face of this franchise, like he can't be, a second stringer that, you gotta insert him more. And also I feel like Pinhead is not looking as good as he did in those other movies. I feel like he looked a little off in this.
I think that's fair. The budget. I mean, the space station looked cheap as shit. Everything felt really cheap in this movie. So yeah, the makeup on Pinhead being more deteriorated isn't initially surprised. In fact, there was one of the pins in his chin that were kind of annoying me because I felt like they were. It was kind of sticking to the side rather than going straight out. It was bugging me.
It like it kind of looks like when you look at it, like you should be kind of horrified because it's like, oh man, there are these like pins driven into this person. But like when I look at him in this movie, yeah, you kind of want to like just touch it with your finger, kind of like do like a little bonk on it or something.
Yeah.
Actually, that reminds me though. I think it's with the twin security guards. Like when there's a character in this that when they first see him, like the first thing they say is he's got pins in his face, which is like.
Oh no, actually, I'll correct you slightly.
Okay.
Because it was even worse. He goes, he's got pins in his head.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, very good, very good. They literally just said his name, just backwards.
But it's also like, you see this like crazy thing going on, and it's like even without the pins, he's like a weird, freaky looking thing. But like, I just like that they're so focused on like the pins. That's not normal.
Yeah, the weird dominatrix outfit and the blades hanging from his like, waist. Yeah.
Yeah, and the like stream of blood like coming down his nipples. Like, sure, whatever. His black soulless eyes. Like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, just the pins. He's a pinhead. That's his titular thing. And it's that problem of like characters becoming caricatures of what they, it's like, okay, they were good in their role that they started off in, but then Freddy becomes this jokey character.
Right.
Pinhead becomes this. Michael Myers like just turns into another Jason, and I love Jason. That's not a complaint, but like you have kind of this problem with the franchises that keep going, and Hellraiser again, like really should have been a one and done, but they wanted more, and now there's 10 of the bloody things, and we got another movie in the works. It's a TV show in the works. So if you want regular TV reviewed content from Tim, I mean, you're probably going to get some of it soon because we got a Chucky TV show and a Hellraiser TV show, which are both.
Hell yeah.
Are both going to be Tim. Tim's subbing in to talk about those.
Oh no, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Whenever they happen to drop. I mean, that Chucky one must be close now because he's been working that for ages. But
yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah. Hellraiser 4 is a mess. It's definitely an interesting mess because it's so wacky with its ideas. But I am fascinated and terrified of where this franchise is going, and yeah, what else is there to say?
Even stuff like obvious like weird studio interference and stuff like that aside, it's like there's that many like cool kills or anything in the movie. Like if you're gonna do something that's like cheesy and dumb, like at least kind of pack it with like special effects and kills and stuff that you can kind of get behind and have fun with, versus something like this where there's not I guess there is like some fun and stuff and some stuff that's like so bad it's laughable, but it's not like a treat like other maybe bad movies are.
It's kind of the Saw problem in a way, in that they wanted to have such an insane plot, but it just kind of detracts from the simple, goofy fun that might have been had otherwise.
Yeah.
It's not quite as twisty and turny, so don't get me wrong. It's not like, compare this to Saw 4, it's no competition, but it's kind of the same thing where they really wanted to have this big plot of like, this descendants of the family line and all the rest, or the bloodline, if you, I suppose, to be accurate to the title. But yeah, so
I would be down with like a Saw movie that opens up in space and then cuts to like some 18th century version of Jigsaw.
Honestly, a space station that Jigsaw designed does sound like a fun movie, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I would like if because I think that's one of the reasons why I really don't like the Saw franchise is it feels like it takes itself so seriously. Like if they wanted to get goofy with it and like start doing shit in space or whatever, like I don't know, I might become a Saw fan, but
hey,
I don't really see him doing that.
We were supposed to have Saw 9 last month. That was
yeah.
So we got the Book of Saw, or was it Spiral?
Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Spiral
I believe.
from the Book of Saw is the full title. So we got that going for us. But hey, yeah, we're working on Hellraiser here. So I guess we have to rate this. Let's be honest, it's a bit of a train wreck.
Yeah.
What are you giving it?
I desperately want to give it a 4 because I do like when the number of the franchise matches the score. But I don't think I can go that high. But I'm gonna go just one notch lower. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It's very clearly a mess and bad, but I think at the very least it is interesting and trying to do things and still has like somewhat of a plot with ideas versus where I think the other movies are gonna go. Like you got to give the franchise some room to go down because I feel like the it's gonna be even more downhill from where we go from here. But yeah, it's a shame because I don't think this would ever be a great movie, but I think at least we could have more of a decent, interesting movie. But I do wonder at some point if they will release like similar like what they did with Halloween when they released the box set and had like the producer's cut of 6 or something. Like I wonder if at any point we'll get like a collection or something and maybe we'll have the director's cut. I don't know.
Maybe
as
one
it
day.
stands, not good.
Release the air cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a straight 3. It's I think it gets to 3 because I don't hate the new Cenobite designs, and the creation of the twins, while random, was relatively fun, and it is ballsy. I did laugh a lot at the ending, and yeah, at least it is trying something, I suppose, even if it's a complete mess in the end. Plus, there has to be room for lower because I've got a funny feeling these are going to get worse. We're going to be in that howling territory of everything trying to top itself and how bad it is. But
yes.
that is Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. Tim, you're going to do your pose for the thumb here. So wait, count down 3, 2, 1, and you're going to pose. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, pose. Are you thinking about like what the movie is when you're doing this, like if your pose relates to how you feel about the movie in any way?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Okay. All right. So of course you can let us know what you think. If you did make it to the end here, if you made it to this part of the review, please do let us know with the word toy maker in the comments. Put in the word toy maker if you made it this far in the video. But yeah, so you can of course like and subscribe. Liking is very important as well. Lets YouTube know that we're worth recommending to other people. You can of course get us on the Twitters at Streams Midnight, and we did mention earlier, of course, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support us for as little as $1 per month. So go do all those things. That's all cool. We'll be back with Hellraiser Inferno, and usually I can't tell you when we're going to do this, but because we've got this kind of roughly planned for once, we can tell you that the next Hellraiser will be in October during the Octoberthon, as will there be another Friday the 13th, another Nightmare on Elm Street, the final Scream movie, at least so far, and also the next Leprechaun movie are all going to happen in October, so look forward to that. But that has been Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.